So I started the exam last Friday after work, around 5:21 p.m. And by 5:49, I had already answered 4 questions down. So I was definitely feeling good about myself. It was going pretty well. So the first 5 questions were actually pretty generic questions. I can't tell you what I mean by generic, but you can assume. The sixth question, that's where it began to be a little more specific. But after that, I looked at other questions and I'm just skimming through them just to see, okay, what are they all about? Get a little familiar. The good thing about the exam is that you can go through the questions, you can go back to the questions, you can flag the questions. So I was looking through them just to get an idea of, okay, are there any low hanging fruit here that I can tackle right away? That's what I was looking for. So after the first 5 questions, I was starting to get stuck. I spent the rest of my time just doing some information gathering, um, organizing my notes. And around 7 o'clock, I took a quick break and I went for a run. Then I came back, I showered, I did a little more procedures, and by 8:30, I was done. I was already a toast from a long day at work, so I called it a day and just relaxed. So now it's Saturday morning, and I get a start at 8:40 a.m. I'm basically there all day at the computer doing the exam, taking small breaks here and there every 2 or 3 hours. Nothing big, nothing crazy. And I call it a day around 7:30. So I wasn't feeling too good Saturday night because I hadn't done as much as I wanted to do. I was only about between maybe 13 and 16 questions done, if I remember correctly. And that's about half, right? Less than half, even. I wasn't feeling too good, but I called it a day because I was frustrated. I was hitting a wall, so I'm just, okay, I'm going to sleep on this and then get an early start on Sunday. So I did, and I started to pick up the pace. I was starting to answer a lot more questions. I was knocking them down, and by 1 o'clock, I submitted the exam. Now, I did not finish all of the questions. You might say, but you still had time. If you started it at 5:30 on Friday, then that means that you could have kept going Sunday. Yeah, that's true, but I had things to do starting at 2 o'clock that day, and I already knew that going forward. But anyways, I don't think that the extra hours would have helped much because I had reached the point where, okay, I don't know this stuff. So I don't remember exactly, but I think it's you pass with a 75. So if you answer around 26, 27 questions, you're around the 75 mark if you get them all correctly. I answered a little more than that, but I did have a handful where I'm like, okay, I don't know. A couple of them I guess, and then the other ones I just left blank. Do I think I passed? I don't know. So when I submitted the exam, I had a good feeling about it. And I think that I had that good feeling because the questions that I did answer, I feel like they were correct. And I also feel that I answered more than 75% of the questions correctly. However, this feeling makes me a little nervous because every time that I've taken the exam and I have walked away with a confident feeling, just like I did now, I have failed that exam, whether it's cybersecurity or something else. Whenever I have walked away from an exam and felt this nervousness and actually had no idea how I did, and actually felt like I failed the exam, like kind of like I did with the CISSP or the Security Plus, I actually end up passing the exam, and I actually end up passing the exam with a pretty good grade. So this one, although I feel good, there could be a small chance that I don't pass it. So some of the things that I would do differently in the exam is I would definitely go through the entire course. And if you have the possibility, go through the labs probably twice. I think what will really help you in the exam is having notes on the different commands and the different types of vulnerabilities or approaches for each service, each vulnerable service that you saw in the course. So whatever that service is, make sure that you have your notes on your information gathering techniques, have notes on how to exploit that. The course is pretty good, and the course pretty much covers everything that you're going to see. I don't want to say that it covers everything to the letter. So if you saw it in the course, that's exactly how they're going to put it in the exam. But there might be things that you need to figure out. And I actually feel like there were a few things that I had to figure out, but they weren't too far-fetched that anyone who does the course wouldn't be able to do that. So I think that if you do the course, you would actually be in a good situation to figure out, okay, what do I need to do in this specific scenario right here? I didn't finish the entire course. I'm still working through it. I still went for the exam because I really wanted to experience it. I was really excited about it, and I felt confident enough that I could take it and probably pass it. But also having the extra voucher as a just in case also helps. So the questions that you're going to see, I can't talk about the specifics, but the questions are actually pretty fair. They were pretty fun. Some of the questions are going to be multiple choice, where you are given the question and then 4 options to choose from. There's other questions where there are dynamic flags, meaning you have to exploit a specific machine, navigate to a specific folder, and if I remember correctly, they tell you what folder to navigate to, and they ask you what is the flag. And it's called a dynamic flag because let's say that one of the machines, I get the code for that flag. Well, your flag is going to look differently because they have made it so that the dynamic flag will be different for you and for me. I felt like the exam was a little tough. I wasn't overwhelmed, but it was a little tough for me. I don't feel like I had enough time, but again, I think that that's because I didn't go through the entire course. Also, I started it after a full day of work, so when I started it, I could only put in a few hours. I was already tired from the entire week, from the day, and then on Sunday, the last day for the exam, I actually had to cut it short because I had other things that I needed to attend to. So if I were doing this again, I'd probably take the full days off so that I can start early in the morning where I operate best, and have that full day, and then have a second day where I have the full day again to be able to work through it. Notice that because I started it on Friday night, I had Friday night to sleep, so that's 8 hours right there, and then Saturday, that's another 8 hours. As compared to if I would have started it Sunday morning, and then I would have had all Saturday, 1 night of sleep, and then I would have had all Sunday. So if I were to do it again, I would probably start early in the morning, have all that day, sleep, and then have all the next day to work through this. Make sure that when you're taking the exam, take some breaks. Treat it as if it was work and not an examination where you have to be sitting there and you have to complete it in one sitting. Remember, this is a multi-day exam, so get up, take a break, go for a run, go work out, go relax, and then come back and continue working through. You don't have to be on the computer the entire time and finish it all in one sitting. I actually noticed that whenever I would get up and then come back, a lot of new ideas would pop into my head and new solutions or ways of approaching the problem. If you're stuck in one of the questions or you're just stuck in multiple questions, leave those to the end and just skip those and then continue on to questions that you can answer. And then if you come back to them and you still can't answer them, you just can't figure them out, just sleep on them, and then the next morning when you come back, tackle them, and you'll see that, okay, you're going to be able to approach this with a fresh mind, and you're going to have a new perspective, and actually brand new ideas are going to pop up that will probably help you solve those questions. Also remember that this is an open book exam, so don't be afraid to Google things, and also don't be afraid to just jump out of the lab, go back to the course, replay some videos, Go look at the solution manuals to see what tools are they using, what are they doing, what are the commands that they're utilizing, and then come back and see if any of that helps you approach any question that you're stuck on. Something that really helped me, and I think that this is going to be one of the biggest advice that I'm going to give you, is you want to try to focus on one machine at a time. Okay, spoiler alert. There's more than one machine. So I can't tell you how many machines there are. Maybe there's 2, maybe there's 20, who knows. Focus on one machine at a time and try to answer all the questions related to that machine. Once you have exhausted all of the questions related to that machine, go on to the next one. Because what happens is that if you're jumping back and forth, it's hard to keep track of the different services, the vulnerabilities, the attack methodologies, and the attack approach for every single machine. So they're going to get kind of mingled together, and that's actually going to work against you because you won't feel as organized, you won't feel as clear, you won't have a clear direction on what to take. It's a lot easier to approach one machine and focus on one machine and exhaust all the possibilities, gather all of the information, enumerate everything that you can on one machine, and then start answering those questions. And depending on those questions, see if you need to go deeper. Do I need to privilege escalate? Do I need to root this box? Because remember, you might not need to root every box, or you might. I'm not saying you do or you don't, but what I'm saying is, use your time wisely. They have upped the questions to 35 questions, so 48 hours might be enough for you if you really understand the concepts, if you're really solid in this, if you're practice and do CTFs outside, and you're pretty comfortable with the course material. If you're not, it might not be. It might be a little tight. And that's actually how I felt. It was a little tight for me. Again, I think that partly was because I didn't finish the entire course, which I would encourage you to do if you can. And if not, then just go in and do the best that you can. Once you finish answering all of the questions for one box, go to the next box and then answer all of those questions. If there are questions that you are banging your head on the wall and you don't know what you need to do next, move on. One of the things that I really like about the eJPT is the freedom that they give you. They say, hey, here is the machines, here's the exam, and here's the timer. You do you. So if you want to start from question 35 up, you can do that. If you want to do odd numbers first, you can do that. So I really like that about them. Also, you're able to flag questions, you're able to leave them blank and move on. You can come back to them later. So that's pretty neat as well. Make sure that you are taking really good notes. Take notes. I don't know what you use, but make sure that you're using something that is good and something that you can organize in some sort of hierarchy. So I use OneNote. The way I took my notes in OneNote is that I would have one tab for the exam. So let's call this beta test. And in the beta test, I would have one page, and in the first page, I'd probably have like the initial info gathering, right? So after the initial info gathering, I'd probably put whatever my mmap scans are giving me. I'd put what my IP address is, etc. So let's say that I have, okay, my nmap discovered box 1 at IP XYZ, box 2, box 3, and then it would probably give me, okay, let's say port 1, port 2, etc., right? I'd add pages, so for each one I'd be like, okay, this is box 1. Here I would have some notes about box 1, and then I would go in and make a new page, and I would make this a sub page so that this can be for port 1. and then I make another page, and then this one I'd make port 2. Once I'm done with all the ports, I would go ahead and build a new page, and then in this new page I would call it box 2, and then I would do the same thing with the ports as we're doing here, so that there's actually a really good organization with it. What you want to make sure is that you can navigate through. If you have questions in your mind and you want to revisit the results of a scan or whatever else you did, then you can go back to the information based on the service or the port and go and find that information really easily. Another thing that you want to do is that, let's say you find credentials for box 1. Now, I'm not saying that that you will find credentials or you won't find credentials, but let's say that you do. If you do find credentials for box 1, what I did and was really helpful is I would create a new page and one that would be called, okay, I have these users. And I would annotate, okay, user 1, user 2, user 3. And the reason you want to do that is because for whatever other procedure that you would do, if you have users, right? If you need if you want to try different users, if you're trying to break in, you want to make sure that you're annotating, okay, the possible users that you'll be able to utilize in your target. Another thing you want to do is, if you actually get credentials, then you want to build a new page as well, and you want to call this one credentials. You want this data quickly available to you so that you can have user 1, password 1. You can quickly come here and try the username, password, depending what you do. So you want to make sure that you have that. You want to make sure that you have your users and your credentials ready to go at any time, because this might be the main way that you get into some boxes. Maybe not. Maybe you just go in and exploit it through an RCE or whatever else, right? There's a ton of techniques that were shown in the eJPT beta that you will most likely see in the exam, but always having your users and your credentials separated and organized in a place where you can quickly refer back to is always going to prove helpful. Remember, you want to set yourself up for success, and you want to set yourself up for being able to do things quick. You don't want to spend too much time just going through your notes and trying to revisit or rerun commands that you have already run. Now, along the path of rerunning commands, if something doesn't work and you expected it to, go back and see if you made any mistakes. Just in case it's on you and maybe not on the machine. Also, this was taught to us in the course, run an exploit. And if it doesn't work, run it again, and maybe run it a third time. If that doesn't work, then okay, maybe that's not the way to, maybe that is not the access point. Don't be afraid to use different tools for the same exploitation. So let's say that you try to perform some kind of exploitation or enumeration, and it doesn't work out, or you don't get the information you need with the tool that you used. Use another tool to see if it works with that one. So don't be stuck only with one tool. Make sure that you have 2 or 3 tools available to yourself that you can refer back to, so that if tool 1 doesn't work and tool 2 doesn't work, then you can go to the third one. I probably only had to refer to like 2 tools. So if you have 2, you should be in a good place. All right, so that was my experience. I hope that if you take the eJPT, I hope you kill it and that you do super well. Again, if you feel overwhelmed at any point in the exam, just make things smaller, make things linear so that you can tackle one thing at a time. If it's just focus on one box, focus on one port at a time. Don't look at the entire thing because it might become overwhelming to you. You'll most likely lose connection to the labs. It happened to me several times. Don't get frustrated about it. It's going to happen. Just go in already with that attitude that Yeah, you'll probably lose connection a few times. It might not be your fault, it might be their fault, but it doesn't matter. You can always go back, log in. When you're starting the labs, it does take a few minutes to ramp up. So you gotta open up the lab just like you do in your labs in the course. And then once you open it, it needs to build it. It needs about 3 or 4 minutes to build it, but you should still be fine. You should still be fine. If you disconnect, just make sure that you refresh the page, log out, log back in if you need to, and you'll be okay. One thing you definitely need to know, this is another key tip. Just know that any files that you download, make sure you copy paste the any contents that you need for the next day into your notepad, because when you log out of the lab, when you close the lab and you come back, all files that were there are gone. The good thing is that you'll have the same IP address, the targets will have the same IP address, but your files will all be gone. I don't feel like there was a place where I'm like, this thing was lost, and if there's anything that you do need, you can always go back and get it again. But again, this goes back to taking really good notes. Anyways, I hope this really helped you. The eJPT is a fun exam. Have fun with it. Even if you don't pass it, we get a free voucher, so it's going to be great. If you watch this once the eJPT is public, I'm sure that it probably won't change much, but just have fun with it. Whether you pass or you fail, this is all about the learning experience. Hope this helps, and I'll see you next time. Bye.